What's up, guys? Welcome to the Outer Nexus. Tonight, we are going to discuss what James Webb Telescope found on another planet, perhaps aliens, maybe, probably not. And then we're going to get into how Grusch submitting his witness list might be accelerating the unlocking of new technologies. But let's check this out for what the James Webb came up with. This is from Cambridge University. Let's see what he has to say.
We found the strongest evidence to date of possible biological activity on an exoplanet. DMS stands for dimethyl sulfide. This is a very important molecule because here on Earth, DMS is produced uniquely by life, microorganisms in the ocean like algae, phytoplankton. And theoretical studies had predicted for the last 2 decades that molecules like DMS would be very robust biomarkers on exoplanetary systems, including planets with hydrogen-rich atmospheres like Haitian worlds. K218b is an exoplanet orbiting a red dwarf star about 124 light years away. It has a mass of about 8.6 Earth masses and a radius of about 2.6 Earth radii. And it orbits in the habitable zone of its host star, which means if you put an Earth-like planet at its location, we would think of it as habitable. So the technique we used to determine the atmospheric composition of the planet is known as transit spectroscopy. What is happening is that you look at the planet as it transits in front of the host star. So the atmosphere of the planet, some of the starlight goes through the atmosphere of the planet before reaching the telescope. And the atmosphere, the molecules in the atmosphere absorb some of that starlight. So by looking at a differential measurement when the planet is in front of the star or when it isn't, you can extract how much absorption is happening in the planet's atmosphere. So 2 years ago in 2023, we reported a very tentative inference of DMS on this planet with a different set of observations with a different instrument in the 1 to 5 micron range. But the evidence was very tentative, so we looked this time at the planet again in a different wavelength range. And what we are finding is significantly stronger evidence at a 3 sigma level for the presence of either DMS or DMDS or both. Now, DMDS, like DMS, is also a strong and unique biomarker here on Earth and had also been predicted to be a biomarker on planets with hydrogen-rich atmospheres. And that is what is new, is that there's a possibility of one or both of these molecules to be present in the atmosphere at a credible level of significance. So while this is great and evidence to keep looking, this is not enough to qualify it as a robust scientific discovery. For that, we need to reach the level of 5 sigma. What does that mean? At 5 sigma, you're talking about the chance of a fluke being about a part in a million.
Okay, so hold on. They kind of just get into what the 99.7% means. And as an alien guy, I want this to be aliens. I want it to be real. And you know, like he said in 2023, they did a tentative scan of it, and they found, in
maybe 5 micron range, yeah,
something like that. Maybe these chemicals existed on this planet, and then they did it again this year, and these chemicals seem to definitely be on this. But even we actually got into a heated discussion about this. I like the idea of it being alien. It's everywhere. It's all over the news. But even I have issues with this. But of course, Billy has specific issues with it.
Yes. So the thing that was said here, and it's in the article there, is it's a 99 point, what is it, 7 or 3?
Yeah, let's get into that first.
99.7% confidence level that those molecules, DMS and DMDS, are present on the planet. And on Earth, those molecules are only made by basically algae in any significant amounts. So when we have them here, that's to us, that's algae. Like that would just be algae to us. But this is not Earth we're talking about. And these things, if you do look them up, there are ways of making them without life as well. You need basically 2 different chemicals and some kind of electrical discharge, and you could make these same chemicals. You have to remember that this is a world it is not Earth. It's big. It's actually quite a big planet.
It's a high sand world. It's an ocean world, though.
It's an ocean world. There are good chances of life. These are biomarkers here, so they could be biomarkers there.
And that's why this is such a big deal. That's why it's all over the place, because in my opinion, and the way that they're touting it, is that this is a very significant chance that we are observing an ocean world with life on it. But it's not 100% confirmed. And my 2 issues with it, unless you had more, I'll bring up mine, is one, I really appreciate James Webb. I really appreciate spectroscopy. But man, for when it comes to spectroscopy, is that how you say that word?
Yeah, but it's the long distance version where the planet passes in front of the star, they measure the light, and they're like, that's the chemical because of the light signature that we're seeing.
And I'm sure these guys have this formula absolutely down pat, but I just feel like that way of measurement, it feels like you could maybe go there with a probe and find out that it actually has totally different chemicals on it. You know what I mean? I really like the idea of this happening, but we honestly, for real proof, we would need to actually go there and see the planet. The other angle that I only have a little issue for, but I have to admit might be the case, is that these guys might be blowing this up and making it a bigger of a deal than it actually is to try to justify their positions and stuff like that.
There's a big thing in the scientific community that's being
Funding
talked about on the down low, basically, because it's basically scientists are out there. They do produce real data sets, but sometimes they produce data sets that don't have to be produced or are being over exaggerated or being over blown up, like if it was something like this and it really wasn't. Just basically to justify their positions. And I'm not saying that this is one of them at all, but it is something to at least keep into in
consideration. Now for the wild speculation, so if this was all real, if it was 100% and this thing has life on it and it's a high sand world, let's throw in the thunderstorms too. Like, what do you think's over there, Billy?
Well, I mean,
basically these chemicals are from algae.
When you get into a big water world, and if we're just going to assume life and algae at this, if we assume that, I'm not sure, because there is a difference between microbial life. Like life on Earth for a long time was basically microbial life. Whether or not there has been any macro life is almost a whole different thing, and what they may have done. So this could just be a big world with a lot of algae.
It might be some sort of pre-state of not proto-life, but like before macro life. You know what I mean?
You might be getting into the really small type swimming type life, basic amoeba type thing. But whether or not it's there yet,
or there could be giant Cthulhu tentacle octopus monsters in that water. And so the thing that I want to just slap onto this is the discovery of these large proteins on Mars. We did an episode on it. What I think might be happening, putting on my speculative hat here, is I think they are preparing us for some type of disclosure. I don't think, again, as I said before, I don't think we're going to get Trump in the Oval Office coming out saying aliens are real. I don't think that moment is going to happen. I know a lot of people are really hoping for that kind of disclosure, and I don't see them doing it this way. I see what they're going to do is they're going to slowly build all these different aspects up until the only inevitable conclusion is that there is some sort of life out there. Oh yeah, and then we have institutions definitely taking this stuff more seriously. Like we have Avi Loeb over at Harvard designing this observatory. It's like a small observatory specifically for detecting UAP. That's what it looks like. I'm just gonna
Same as Dalek for the Doctor Who fans.
The Doctor Who fans, and it's it's got all these sensors on it to try to detect UAP. I think it's a really great initiative by the Galileo project to see if they can do this. And the part of this is they're trying to adjust this thing to detect UAP because they can't actually get the classified specs from the government. The government sensors allegedly have a lot of this data, but we can't get those specs. So they're trying to tune this thing to the right specs in a public way. And I think that's just another great initiative here, just another data point to add. But I think speculatively, one of the biggest things that I'm going to try to tie into everything here is and this is from UAP James on Twitter. This is Representative Burleson talking about what David Grusch has provided, and I think it's significant. I'm just going to pull this.
When we had a meeting with oversight staff and Anna Luna, we had a really productive meeting. Grusch, it was like drinking from a fire hose. He gave probably 20 different names of individuals, some that you've heard of, but most of them I've never heard of being discussed in the UFO community, and these are all people that have been read in on the programs, according to Grusch, and then some of them are retired, some of them are active. He also gave us an indication as to which ones will be hostile and which ones will not. So by hostile, what I mean is that they're not going to willingly come forward and provide information like he did. They don't want to talk about this topic. And if we were to bring them forward, they would probably say, I can't, or I don't recall, or I can't speak to that. Right. So that would be a hostile witness. So we want to get, there's some people that we may have to bring forward and subpoena to bring forward. And so that's kind of how that conversation works.
So just as a recap, in 2023, David Grusch testified before Congress that there are defense contractors that knock UAP out of the sky and attempt to back engineer them. And these programs have been running for decades now. It's some of the most classified programs that we have. And recently, and the thing is, he's Grusch is on the team now. I wouldn't worry about the skiff. I think he's just talking to him, as we could see from Burleson. It looks like they have the information to go after some of these entities that have been suppressing technology. And recently, the White House kind of came out. The director Michael Kratsios at the Endless Frontiers retreat, he made this very curious speech, the golden age of American innovation. I'm just going to read some of this and then we'll watch him. The possibility of progress and the power of science and technology does not allow builders and innovators to retreat from politics. Indeed, quite the opposite, which brings me here today. A golden age is only possible if we choose it. There is nothing predestined about technological progress and scientific discovery. They require efforts and energies of men and women, the collective choice for order and truth over disorder and opinion. The last century was called the American century, as despite wars and domestic conflict, the United States stood at the forefront of science and technology, building the future. With the strength of our industry and ingenuity, we created the largest middle class in the world has ever seen. As Trump said in a letter laying out the science and technology agenda of the administration, the triumphs of the last century did not happen by chance. Ours was the atomic age. Ours, the victory in the space race, and ours, the invention of the internet, collecting and connecting all of human knowledge. Today, we fight to restore that inheritance, and we have a duty to promote American technological leadership. And this is why I'm reading this, because this is what's interesting to me. Americans look forward to electricity too cheap to meter by the end of 1972. 30 nuclear power plants were operational, 55 were under construction, and more than 80 were planned or ordered. That same year, the Apollo 17 astronauts became the 11th and 12th men to walk on the moon. 5 years before, the X-15 rocket plane had set a speed record for a crewed aircraft of Mach 6.7. America was flying higher, faster, and farther than ever before. Today, however, energy prices still burden producers and consumers alike, and the grid remains precarious. Over the past 30 years, only 3 commercial nuclear reactors have been built and 10 have been closed. Despite spending almost twice as much on healthcare as peer nations, we have the lowest life expectancy. Apollo 17 steps on the lunar surface have proved mankind's last. The X-15's record still stands, and the Concorde was decommissioned more than 2 decades ago. Our passenger planes are slower than they used to be. Our trains crawl compared to those in other parts of the world, and our cars don't fly. Advances have not stopped, but something has gone wrong. Stagnation was a choice. We have weighed down our builders and innovators. The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow, and improve productivity. So those are some pretty wild statements. He might. Let's just watch this to what he says. It's probably just gonna be the same thing.
Passenger planes are slower than they used to be. Our trains crawl compared to those in other parts of the world. Our cars do not fly. Advances have not stopped, but something has gone wrong. Stagnation was a choice. We have weighed down our builders and innovators. The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow and improve productivity.
So these are some pretty wild statements, kind of off the cuff there. No, they're not off the cuff, but part of his speech. And I think it falls entirely in line with this administration trying to focus on energy, trying to get energy costs down, focus on nuclear energy, things like that. And, what do you think about that whole scenario, Billy?
So one of the things I would definitely point out is, where, they said he went over all of the big things that we've done in the past, and not even in the recent past. This was further back.
I think it was significant bringing up the X-15 and the Concorde.
Yeah, and these are a significant amount of time ago, and we really haven't moved much
For some reason.
Yeah, from that. And in my opinion, this is more of a corporate stagnation. There are corporate powers that want this to be.
Mhm.
It is in their best interest for things to stay stagnant because that is how they build their markets, and they slowly watch for anything that's new and innovative to come out,
Mhm.
and they devour it.
Yes.
And whether or not they use that to enhance themselves and then sell it themselves, or just completely get rid of it because it's a threat to them or
Mhm.
whatever it may be, I think that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
And we've been in this weird market for a while, and I do think it's time for there to be things put in place where innovation can be more open and to more people.
Yeah.
And one of the things I do see, this comes from like some, I'm not going to say personal experience, but from my own family and my background. For like the nuclear, he mentioned like nuclear power and whatnot. My family works with nuclear power, and the regulatory systems behind nuclear energy are just
Insane.
they're insane. They're so insane most of the time. And don't get me wrong, safety is a big factor. Safety should always be first.
Mhm.
But if your regulation is so tight and
Mhm.
stringent that you hamper yourself so much that you can't do anything, it needs to be looked at and then revised.
And this is something that Grusch spoke about when he testified before Congress, is the Atomic Energy Act of 1954. How that act basically it classified like an entire branch of science and really locked down our nuclear system. And now you have other countries that, I think, is China doing nuclear reactors?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
almost everyone wants to do nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
That is capable of doing them.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's about making nuclear safe, and I feel like we do have safer options now. But to this point of unlocking nuclear potential, I think it's all part of this. It's all part of this rollout, and we have examples like this coming in from countries. This is the Chinese one. They're screwing around with these plasma dynamic thrusters, which basically are nuclear powered rockets. You could call them nuclear powered rockets. That's not really what they are. They basically eject plasma out the back of them through a magnetic process. And they can only really work in space. You can't really have them on the surface of our planet. It would be very dangerous to have them here. So I mean, it's kind of still controversial, that, and we're going to get into that a little more in another episode. But I think that's all part of this. This disclosure of suppressed technologies, and I'm not saying that those pulse thrusters are alien technology. I'm saying that they're suppressed technology that they've just been kind of holding off on for perhaps even decades at this point. But as we wrap up, and also let's get into this before we wrap up. New Jersey is actually going to start, the FAA is going to start drone detection testing in New Jersey to see what the hell these drones are in New Jersey. Let's check this out. Finally doing it.
Says it will fly several drones to test out new drone detection technology. Those flights will take place near Cape May, New Jersey, over a 2-week period beginning Monday. There was a spike in mystery drone sightings in the Garden State late last year and near major airports in some other states. The FAA says it plans to conduct similar tests in New Mexico, North Dakota, and Mississippi later this year.
So you have that going on. And also, let me see, hold on. You also have this going on at Right, Pat. You have a diamond formation drone swarm that evaded detection, triggering Right, Pat airspace shut down. I mean, these drones are getting pretty. They're calling them drones. It's getting pretty wild with this stuff, though. It was It was a lot of speculation of what they were over New Jersey.
Yeah.
I personally think a lot of them was just generic military drone testing, because New Jersey is a hotbed for drone companies. However, there were truly anomalous things that were happening off of the coast of New Jersey and Daytona, Florida, and other places, with these orbs rising out of the water, things like that. And then, of course, you have this crazy event where a drone swarm that evaded detection, shutting down Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. What do you think about all the stuff with these drones, these crazy drones?
Well, I mean, from my opinion on some of these, it's like they are. I'm not saying they're like Chinese drones or something like that, but they are. There are a lot of third-party drones that are out there.
Pretty
whether
wild.
whether or not they belong to a person, to a government, it could even be our own government, because government arms are known not to talk to each other.
Yes.
And so, like, I would think it's more in that section.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would fly one near Wright-Patterson and
That's pretty crazy.
throw off their whole thing.
Yeah.
But it would make sense that they would fly it near places that would be like open space.
Yeah.
So like they mentioned what was it, like Oceans, not Maryland.
Daytona.
Yeah,
Daytona. Yeah.
Places closer to water. You're not gonna really get near, too near people. If the thing crashed, you can just drop it in the water.
Yeah, basically.
And I think that's more of what's going on, but there could be more to it. I did see some of the weirder videos.
Weird ones. The ones off the coast of Daytona are I can't find them right now, but they are pretty fucking wild. But just to wrap this up, I just need your opinion about this. I'm gonna pull this bad boy up. Let me see. Is that? Hold on. Let me just see if I can pull this guy up. Here we go. So, Billy, what if they do wheel out the bodies? What if they wheel out the Peruvian government wheels out alien bodies for real with metal psychic implants in them, or whatever the fuck those things are?
So, in my opinion here,
I
mean, the body's interesting because I think they said the head was
elongated. And it actually, that's not a good shot of it, but it looks actually very strange. It looks highly unusual.
Now that in itself is interesting.
Yeah.
But I think the more interesting things, like you can see from those pictures, are obviously the green things, which are supposedly metals.
Yes. And like embedded in their forehead.
Yes.
And like on their wrists, like they're doing like they're it's some kind of augment that gives them perhaps some sort of ability.
So, in my opinion, we should definitely examine these bodies.
Yeah.
Pull out those metals.
Yeah.
And try again. This is like if we had a crashed UFO.
Yeah.
We should study those to find out every little thing about, and then again, not only run the test on what the metals are, but like, okay, if this was in a human body, why?
Yeah.
And then try and figure out, like, oh, if we put this near a rat, all of a sudden the rat can, like, I'm not saying control other rats, but like all of a sudden slightly different things that it can do.
Yeah.
And it's like, then we could try and figure out why these were there in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, that it's, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I cannot also pass up the possibility that this is
a hoax.
Not a hoax.
Oh, okay.
A ritual that we are not aware of.
Okay. And that would also be very interesting if this is a ritual we weren't aware of. And by the way, this is from Pavel over at Segoativo. He does great work. But the thing that I wanted to point out here really quick, and you can't really see him on the hands, but you can see him on the toes. They only have 3. And same with the hands. Oh yeah, you can see them there a little bit. They only have 3, and these are structured correctly for 3. These aren't like they removed. Well, maybe they could have. Maybe they just removed fingers and for some sort of mummification thing.
It could have been. I mean, one
Yeah.
of the things that they were obviously big on was body modification.
Body modification, yeah.
Because I mean, if you have the elongated
Head
skull,
binding
and stuff
and
like that,
Foot scrunching.
it's not impossible that they would.
They just fucking surgically
Yeah.
removed.
Yeah.
It is the most brutal way possible.
I mean,
yeah.
surgically.
While they're living.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might be some kind of weird, screwed up, just normal human. But the facial structure on them is highly unusual. And we'll get into that in another episode.
Yeah.
But we're going to wrap it up there for now. Please like and subscribe, guys. See you next time.